Okay, ladies, so I am really excited. All right, so good evening, ladies. I'm so excited to do these calls. They make me really happy. It's one of my favorite things to do is to get all of you on the line together. I think there's something really powerful about group situations, even though we're not physically in the same presence of each other, just the group energy. Whenever I do group programs, the dynamic of it is so different than one-on-one, and it's just that sense of community and feeling interconnected to everyone else and knowing that you're not alone through this whole process is huge. So that's one of the reasons that I love doing these calls. Another is I just love giving out this information because it's super powerful, especially tonight's topic. So tonight we're talking about belly bloating foods, right? So it's one of the calls in our bloat vanishing series. So we did the first call, which is the components that you need to go to on your bloat vanishing journey. So we covered that in the last call. And tonight is all about the top 3 healthy foods, right? Supposedly healthy foods that you're eating that are keeping you kind of miserable and still bloated and still stuck and not really moving forward, right? It can be really frustrating. So we're going to uncover that tonight. So this is one of my kind of key pieces in my programs. Whenever I go out and do talks in the community, I always do kind of the top healthy things you're doing that are keeping you kind of fat, frustrated, and fatigued are the 3 words that I use because we can all identify with that. And there's a lot of misconceptions out there in the media and in the world about what we should be doing that really aren't right or aren't working for us and are just making us worse or stuck in staying right where we are. So before we dive into that, I just want to thank each of you for being here tonight. So this is huge, just that you took time out of your day, right? We all have choices as to how we get to spend our time. We're all very busy. It's a very busy world, and there's lots going on, and we're bombarded with all sorts of stimuli and information coming in from all directions. So the fact that you took tonight out and focused on you, you chose this for you, and that's huge. So you're kind of making a bold statement to the universe and to yourself that you're ready for something different and some new information to come forward through you and to make some changes, right, maybe in your life or your body or whatever that may be for you. We're all on a little bit of a different journey. So this call specifically is designed for, of course, women, so all of you, but specifically those women who are really sick of dieting, right, and that's most of us. I don't know a woman who's not sick of dieting or feeling like they have to diet, right, because that's been imposed on us through society as well. We kind of feel like we should be dieting, and then we feel guilty because we're not dieting or we're not eating like we think we should. This call is also for you if you're really sick of counting calories and you're just tired and just sick of it, and that's all of us as well, right? And then it's also for you if you're really just tired and frustrated of working your little butts off, right, and you're not seeing any results. So you're working out more, you're pushing more, you're wearing yourself out, you're eating less, and maybe eating more clean or healthy than you have before, but you're more tired, you're more irritable, you're more frustrated, you're not seeing the results that you want, or perhaps you're even getting a little bit worse, right? So I see a lot of that in my clients who come to me. They're doing everything right, and they're working out. They're doing more, and they're eating less, yet the weight's not coming off, or they're gaining more weight through their middle. And this call is also for you if you're really ready just to know the simple truth, right, and flip your dieting perspective and just get some clarity around all of the confusion that's generated by the media on what's right and what's wrong, and what a proper diet really is, and what we really need to be doing to lose weight and to feel good in our skin, right? And then, of course, because this is all about banishing the bloat, right, it's also for you if you experience any type of digestive discomfort or abdominal distension or just feeling like your body doesn't really digest its food properly, or you're carrying a little extra weight around the midsection more than you feel is comfortable or maybe healthy for you. So if you can resonate with any of these things, you're in the right spot. And I know most of us can connect with at least one of these things, if not a couple or all of them, right? So we're going to provide basically clarity around all these things for you tonight to give you a direction, hopefully a new direction to move forward after the call is over. So this is the second call in a series that's focused on banishing the bloat, right? A little catchy title, which it draws our attention because that's an area of our body that we all want to kind of perfect, right? And as many of you know, one of the signature programs that I run is called Banish the Bloat. It started last year, a year ago in August, and has been running, and I've taken over 80 women through it that have had amazing, amazing results, which is why I keep running the program, because people love it. And clients continue to go through it multiple times because they enjoy the process and the community and even the foods, which is always a good thing. So what Banish the Bloat is a 21-day, I call it a secret filling system designed to help you drop the pounds, bust through impossible plateaus, and step into a brilliant new you, right? It sounds kind of fancy, but it's true. It does all of that. And it's basically, this program is used to help women, just like you, discover why you can't lose weight, especially around your midsection, right? And through this process, they also get rid of craving, and transform their diets and their view around dieting and what a healthy diet really is. So in the 21-day program, we discuss and we get into more detail about the top 10 tummy toning foods, and then we also talk about the top 10 belly bloating foods. But today, we're going to touch on all right, so good evening, ladies. I'm so excited to do these calls. They make me really happy. It's one of my favorite things to do is to get all of you on the line together. I think there's something really powerful about group situations, even though we're not physically in the same presence of each other, just the group energy. Whenever I do group programs, the dynamic of it is so different than one-on-one. And it's just that sense of community and feeling interconnected to everyone else and knowing that you're not alone through this whole process is huge. So that's one of the reasons that I love doing these calls. Another is I just love giving out this information because it's super, super powerful, and especially tonight's topic. So tonight we're talking about belly bloating foods, right? So it's one of the calls in our bloat vanishing series. So we did the first call, which is the components that you need to go to on your bloat vanishing journey. So we covered that in the last call. And tonight is all about the top 3 healthy foods, right? Supposedly healthy foods that you're eating that are keeping you kind of miserable and still bloated and still stuck and not really moving forward, right? It can be really frustrating. So we're going to uncover that tonight. So this is one of my kind of key pieces in my programs. Whenever I go out and do talks in the community, I always do kind of the top healthy things you're doing that are keeping you kind of fat, frustrated, and fatigued are the 3 words that I use because we can all identify with that. And there's a lot of misconceptions out there in the media and in the world about what we should be doing that really aren't right or aren't working for us and are just making us worse or stuck in staying right where we are. So before we dive into that, I just want to thank each of you for being here tonight. So this is huge, just that you took time out of your day, right? We all have choices as to how we get to spend our time. We're all very, very busy. It's a very busy world. There's lots going on, and we're bombarded with all sorts of stimuli and information coming in from all directions. So the fact that you took tonight out and focused on you, you chose this for you, and that's huge. So you're kind of making a bold statement to the universe and to yourself that you're ready for something different and some new information to come forward through you and to make some changes, right, maybe in your life or your body or whatever that may be for you. We're all on a little bit of a different journey. So this call specifically is designed for, of course, women, so all of you, but specifically those women who are really sick of dieting, right, and that's most of us. I don't know a woman who's not sick of dieting or feeling like they have to diet, right, because that's been imposed on us through society as well. We kind of feel like we should be dieting, and then we feel guilty because we're not dieting or we're not eating like we think we should. This call is also for you if you're really sick of counting calories and you're just tired and just sick of it, and that's all of us as well, right? And then it's also for you if you're really, really just tired and frustrated of working your little butts off, right, and you're not seeing any results. So you're working out more, you're pushing more, you're wearing yourself out, you're eating less, and maybe eating more clean or healthy than you have before, but you're more tired, you're more irritable, you're more frustrated, you're not seeing the results that you want, or perhaps you're even getting a little bit worse, right? So I see a lot of that in my clients who come to me. They're doing everything right, and they're working out. You know, they're doing more, and they're eating less, yet the weight's not coming off, or they're gaining more weight through their middle. And this call is also for you if you're really ready just to know the simple truth, right, and flip your dieting perspective and just get some clarity around all of the confusion that's generated by the media. on what's right and what's wrong, and what a proper diet really is, and what we really need to be doing to lose weight and to feel good in our skin, right? And then, of course, because this is all about banishing the bloat, right, it's also for you if you experience any type of digestive discomfort or abdominal distension, or just feeling like your body doesn't really digest its food properly, or you're carrying a little extra weight around the midsection more than you feel is comfortable or maybe healthy for you. So if you can resonate with any of these things, you're in the right spot. And I know most of us can connect with at least one of these things, if not a couple or all of them, right? So we're going to provide basically clarity around all these things for you tonight to give you a direction, hopefully a new direction to move forward after the call is over. So this is the second call in a series that's focused on banishing the bloat, right? A little catchy title, which it draws our attention because that's an area of our body that we all want to kind of perfect, right? And as many of you know, one of the signature programs that I run is called Banish the Bloat. It started last year, a year ago in August, and has been running, and I've taken over 80 women through it that have had amazing, amazing results, which is why I keep running the program, because people love it. And clients continue to go through it multiple times because they enjoy the process and the community and even the foods, which is always a good thing. So what Banish the Bloat is a 21-day, I call it a secret filling system designed to help you drop the pounds, bust through impossible plateaus, and step into a brilliant new you. Right? It sounds kind of fancy, but it's true. It does all of that. And it's basically, this program is used to help women, just like you, discover why you can't lose weight, especially around your midsection, right? And through this process, they also get rid of craving and transform their diets and their view around dieting and what a healthy diet really is. So in the 21-day program, we discuss and we get into more detail about the top 10 tummy toning foods, and then we also talk about the top 10 belly bloating foods. But today, we're going to touch on just the top 3 supposedly healthy foods, belly bloating foods that you're eating that are actually causing this bloat and keeping you stuck and frustrated and maybe even ready to, punch the wall or whatever it is you need to do to get out that frustration, right? We've all been there. And this is, like I said, it's one of my favorite topics because I see this frustration and I see these habits in all of my clients, and I have been there myself, personally experienced it, where you're doing everything right and you're following the rules and you're still not getting to where you need to go and you're still not seeing results, right? And nothing seems to be working. So this is why it's one of my favorites, because we can all relate to it. And there's so many misconceptions and myths out there that just need to be flipped upside down so that we can all release the stress from dieting and what we think we should be doing. So we're going to get more into that as we move along. So to give you an idea of where we're going with our talk tonight, I'll give you a little outline, and then we'll just jump right in. So tonight we're going to cover, number 1, where my Banish the Bloat program came from. So why was it developed? Why is it important? Why do you care about it? Why is it relevant to you? We're going to talk about that a little bit, and you'll also hear my bloat banishing story as well. You'll hear a little bit of that tonight, and I'm going to send you guys a picture. I've never sent this or even posted this in public anywhere, but you'll see when I was going through my bloat banishing journey, the very beginning of it, I'll send you a picture of that so you have that to look forward to in the next day or two. And then next, we're going to move into what healthy really means and what it means to you, right? So define your healthy and what you think healthy foods should be or should look like. We're going to get into that just a little bit. And then we're going to move right into the top 3 healthy, supposedly healthy, belly bloating foods that you're probably eating that could be keeping you stuck, and what to eat instead. So we'll give you some options to move forward with that as well. So we're going to move through this, hopefully not too quickly for you, but make sure you're in a comfortable spot where you can pay attention. Grab some paper, a pen or pencil, and get comfortable and make sure you're in an environment where you won't be distracted, right? If you find yourself kind of zoning out, maybe reposition yourself or move to a different point or position in the room, right? Because we all learn differently. Some people are visual learners. Some people are audio, so they like this through teleconferences. Other people it's a little more difficult. So find what works for you and just get comfortable. That's the main thing. All right, so we're going to jump right in with where Banish the Bloat came from. So again, this is a program that I run regularly, and it's become kind of a staple and what I usually take all of my initial clients through because it's become so essential. And the reason this has kind of come about is because I began to notice a trend with my clients. So I have been doing this for several years, having my own business, and I would see, all clients would come to me for weight loss. And that's usually what brings people through my door is they tried everything and nothing's working. A lot of people have been working with personal trainers for 1 to 2 years and nothing's working. A lot of people have come from other dietitians and nutritionists that have actually given them recommendations that have made them gain weight each successive time they've gone to someone different. So I get a lot of those people who are doing everything right, yet it doesn't seem to be working, right? And so with these people that come to me, what I notice is this trend that every single person, and I wish I was exaggerating, but I'm really not, over the course of several years, through lab testing and through the series of stuff that I can take clients through if they choose that, I saw a trend where every single person had something going on with their digestive system. And until we got that straightened out and kind of flushed out the system and detoxed the system and got the digestive system working properly, those people weren't able to lose weight until their digestive system was in working order again. So I saw this trend over and over and over again. And I don't think I've come across a client yet who doesn't need some type of digestive cleansing or support. So it's super powerful. So this is why this is the first phase I always take clients through, because then it clears your head. So there's no more foggy thinking. That's usually the first thing that people say. It also gets rid of their cravings, because when your body is toxic and the gut's not working right and you're not getting the nutrients that you need, then you're getting false signals from the body. And then there's a lot of confusion. And so you think you're craving these like donuts and chocolate and cookies and pizza and whatever it is. But really it's just that your body needs some cleansing to give you the right signals. So our bodies are confused. So that's why we take them through this process. And then you're able to hear the right signals of your body and gravitate towards the right foods for you. And then the cravings go away, you're able to think clearly, you have more energy, and the body naturally loses weight and gets to the point that's comfortable and healthy weights for you, and then you lose the belly bloating and discomfort along with it. So it's pretty cool, right? All right. So to tell you a little bit more about my bloat vanishing story, so this is a story that I kind of give you pieces of it in my newsletter and in the programs we do. And tonight I'm going to give you another little piece of it. It's a very long story. It happened over a period of 6 years. So you're not going to get the whole story tonight. There's so much that went into it. It's very hard for me to try to put it into a simple story, but I'm going to try to do my best without confusing you and giving you too much information. So my story was, again, I was very similar to a lot of my clients, that I was doing everything right. I was a fitness professional. I went on to grad school and got my dual master's degree in exercise physiology and nutrition. So my body was always very important to me. I never, ever did anything that would jeopardize the health and integrity of my body. I didn't drink, I didn't party, I didn't smoke, I didn't do anything like that. My friends would be out partying on the weekends, and I would be at home with my fitness magazines and the Food Network. And that was my idea of fun, right? And then on the weekends, I would run and train for marathons, and I would teach fitness classes, and I would work at health and weight loss spas and teach classes 8 hours a day, do my own weight training workout for an hour or two every day, and train for marathons and do all this stuff. Plus, I was eating what I thought was a healthy diet. So I was eating low calorie. When I was working for weight loss spas, I was eating 1,100 to 1,200 calories a day, plus working out 8 hours a day, right? Crazy. I was eating low fat, whole grains, no red meat, little meat at all, low fat dairy, lots of soy, actually, and whole grains, of course. So I was doing, everything right, and everyone looked at me and saw me as a very fit person. One of the most fit people that they had ever known. Very fit and healthy. However, in 2005, 2006 or so, my first year of grad school, my body began to change. All of a sudden, my clothes didn't fit. I mean, nothing fit. My pants didn't fit, not even my shirt fit. So I was even gaining weight in my upper body, which I usually don't do. My face was getting puffy. Everything was changing, and nobody would listen to me. I'd say, something's not right. And people would just kind of shrug their shoulders and laugh at me because, they saw me as someone who was fit, right, and who was doing everything right. But I knew something was wrong. So in this time, I gained a good 15 to 20 pounds, right? Just didn't feel like myself. And then I would start to, in grad school, I'd be giving presentations and talks, and I would forget what I was saying. I'd lose my train of thought. During teaching fitness classes, I would forget what I was teaching. I wouldn't be able to connect my mind with what was coming out of my mouth. So eventually I had to stop teaching fitness classes. I even lost a few fitness jobs because I could not do it anymore. My body couldn't keep up. I developed asthma, training for my fourth and final marathon. I developed total body muscle pain and fatigue. So I couldn't even do yoga. I couldn't walk. I couldn't do anything. I had muscle pain all the time, everywhere, and was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, as an undifferentiated connective tissue disease, essentially. Let's see. And basically I just had brain fog. I didn't feel like myself. I was tired. I was depressed. I isolated myself from friends and things that I loved. I couldn't do what I loved anymore. I couldn't work out, and that was my livelihood, right? So through all that, they, diagnosed me with adrenal fatigue, thyroid issues, autoimmune issues, nervous system issues, hormone issues, heavy metal toxicity, parasites, pathogens, leaky gut, dysbiosis, candida, blah, 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 right? So all of that stuff. And through this, my stomach, so even when I was super fit, running all the time, lifting weights, I would do 1 to 2 hours of abdominal workouts with weights and everything. And I still didn't have a really flat stomach or visible muscle in my stomach. And I thought, well, if I didn't have it then, with all that I was doing and how little I was eating, then I'm never going to have it. That's kind of the mentality that I adapted and took up. And through this, through my kind of what was going on with my body, I developed bloating. And you're going to get a picture of that. So it's basically my stomach was huge. No matter what I did, didn't matter what I ate, didn't matter what I was doing, how little I ate, didn't matter. My stomach was huge and really uncomfortable. And I would go to train clients, and they would verify and agree with me that I looked like I was 5 or 6 months pregnant, easily. And so that's not an exaggeration. It's full truth. So I've been through the whole bloat banishing journey myself, and I've been through all the hard stuff for you. And I have a very good understanding of how the body works and why it does what it does, and what we actually need to thrive and to get the results we want. So watching my body change, when I was doing everything right, and then I went to kind of the opposite end of the spectrum where I started eating very differently and moving a lot less and kind of not at all. And all of a sudden I had visible muscle in my stomach, and I had a flat stomach, whereas before I didn't have that, and yet I was working my butt off, right, working really hard, and still didn't have that. So I've gone through my bloat banishing journey and taken so many women through theirs, and that's what I'm going to give you tonight, is everything that I've learned through all this, but you don't have to go through what I went through. I went through that for you, so I would never wish that upon any of you, but it's an amazing learning experience, and it's what brought me to where I am right now. So for that, it's amazing. All right. So we're going to go right into talking about kind of what healthy means to you, right? So right now I want you to think about, when you think of healthy, what do you think of? And what kind of image does it evoke? What kind of feeling does it evoke in your body? What does your body do when you think of the word healthy or health? And just think about this, because for me personally, when I hear the word health, I kind of cringe, but I use it a lot in my materials because it's such a broad, all-encompassing kind of word. But I really want you to start to define health in your own terms, because when we think of health, we usually think of absence of disease, and that's not really fun or exciting, right? We think of doctor's offices, we think of clinical stuff, we think of boring, restriction, not fun, right? So we want to think of health a bit differently, and we got into that in the first call, the Banish the Bloat series. And so think about it, like for me, health means vibrancy and being able to do what I want to do. And I had a friend in town this weekend, and we were talking about this, and really for me, it means freedom. And that is huge. That is number one. I have to have my freedom. And when I didn't have my flat stomach or health or whatever you want to call it, I didn't have my freedom. And that, really kind of destroyed me. So what is health for you? What does it mean for you? It should mean something that gets you excited. So whatever that is, write down a few keywords and keep that in mind next time you ever hear the word health, right? And now I want you to write down healthy things that you're eating right now because you think you should be eating them. Not necessarily because you want to eat them, but because you feel like you should. And so start to think about this and jot this down. That should word is kind of a dirty word because there's a lot of resistance around it. Usually it's us doing something that we really maybe don't connect with or identify with, and we kind of resist it, but we do it anyway because we feel like we should because of outside external sources or pressures or what we feel like other people are telling us to do. And so we kind of lose touch with what we think we, ourselves need. And we instead do what we think we should do. So take a few seconds to write down healthy foods that you're eating because you think you should be eating them. And then pay attention to how that makes you feel. So when you think of these foods, maybe they are foods that you really love and enjoy. And in that case, that may be okay. But if you're looking at these foods and they kind of make you cringe or close up or tighten up or restrict, pay attention to what your body does. So maybe that's a sign that that's not the best food for you. So start to notice how your body physically responds to the thought of some of these foods and habits that you're kind of adopting and why you're adopting them. And think about that kind of throughout the night. Okay, so this is basically what the whole call is designed around. That what if these healthy foods that you think you should be eating, what if they're actually responsible for keeping you stuck and not seeing results and bloated and fatigued and miserable, right? So we're going to dive into that. And again, like I said, in the program, in the full 21-day program, we get into 10 of these or more. And tonight we're just going to cover 3 of them. And there are 3 big ones, big key ones. So we're going to go right into the first one. And the first one is soy products. So soy is something that's kind of cropped up throughout the years as a very kind of superfood health food, and we see it a lot, right? Soy alternatives. We usually see it as an alternative to meat products because meat has been given a bad rap, right, over the years, and they try to relate it to heart disease and high cholesterol levels and different things like that, cancers and stuff like that. And for vegetarians and vegans, right, we see a lot of soy options. And soy also became popular for another reason. I'm not sure how many people know this, but it's basically being heavily farmed and it's cheap. So it's cheap to produce. So there's a lot of money in it, and it's, what else are we going to do with it? So they pumped it into making all these soy products. So veggie burgers, veggie like tofu dogs, tofu like tofurkey for, Thanksgiving's getting closer. So they have vegetarian turkeys and things like that. Whatever they put soy in. And you'll see soy fillers in a lot of things because it's cheap. It's easy to produce, and it's a moneymaker, right? However, soy can have very damaging effects on lots of different systems in the body. So I'll just list off a few. But the thyroid function, so thyroid is our master metabolic hormone. It's responsible for basically setting our metabolic rate, our internal temperature, which is related to our metabolism, how strong that is, and our energy level, essentially. So it can inhibit our thyroid function. And whenever our thyroid function is inhibited or low, we definitely gain weight and become more inflamed and more fatigued and lethargic. And then also it can alter your fertility, which is really scary, especially for women. And I see that a lot. I've had several clients that have come to me that have had trouble getting pregnant. And a lot of times all it takes is a shift in their diet, and then they're able to get pregnant and hold the pregnancy successfully. Of course, it can alter your hormones because it does contain phytoestrogens that has an estrogenic response in the body. It can alter even your sex drive and digestion, of course, which is the key focus tonight. We're going to talk about how it affects your digestion in just a second. And it can even contribute to certain cancers, especially those that are kind of estrogen positive or sensitive to estrogen. That's something to be aware of as well. And it's gotten, people say soy is good for you because, the Asian diet, it's consumed a lot, right, in Asian cultures. And they have less of an incidence of heart disease and other diseases and things like that. However, what we don't realize is that in Asian diets, they're really only eating 9 grams or less of soy in a day, whereas Americans were eating a good 20 grams of soy protein or more, or soy or more. And so not only are we eating a lot more of it, we're eating a different kind of it. So the soy that usually is found in Asian cultures is fermented and not processed like it is here in the U.S. And we're going to talk about what that means in just a second as well. So soy itself is very highly allergenic. And a lot of people have sensitivities to it. So allergy creates more of a histamine response in the body. Sensitivity is more of a chronic inflammation in the system that maybe you don't even know is there, but it takes place over time. So when I was eating a lot of soy, that's why I got so puffy and gained a lot of weight. It totally inhibited and suppressed my thyroid function. And when I eliminated soy, a lot of that inflammation and puffiness went away. And so a lot of food sensitivities exist. So soy is a big one of those. And we don't realize it because the inflammation is at a subclinical level that sometimes it's not enough to evoke a noticeable response. So we can kind of get away with eating these things for a while, and then some seemingly unrelated symptom pops up, like puffiness or brain fog or fatigue or bloating, and we don't really relate it to the soy or whatever it is that we're eating. So that's, one thing to be aware of is it is like an allergen for a lot of us, and there's good reasons why. One is that it's genetically modified, right? So it's a GMO, genetically modified organism. And we're seeing a lot of this in the media right now, right? This is a hot topic. And genetically modified things should be avoided for good reason, because basically science is messing with food and nature. And nature doesn't need to be messed with. Nature as it is perfect. So, we don't need to go in and assist trees in growing or the grass in growing or the seasons in changing or flowers in blooming. They kind of do that on their own, right? So same with our food. We don't need to go in there and change it and mess with it because then we're messing with our DNA and our genetics, and that gets pretty scary. So we want to make sure, first of all, that soy products, and we're going to get into this more in a second, but non-GMO sources is very important. And most of the soy in our society especially is genetically modified. So that's a big thing, one big point to make sure that you're aware of. It can alter our DNA expression and especially trigger autoimmune conditions and inflammatory conditions and things like that. And then they also are heavily sprayed with pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, things like that, and those chemicals get transferred to us. So usually the organic sources are not sprayed with those things. Non-organic is usually heavy sprayed. So you get those chemicals put into your body, and those chemicals can attach to cells and take the place of nutrients. So that's pretty scary as well. And also another reason that soy is very bloating is that it contains kind of toxins and anti-nutrients, essentially, and phytates. So these things, so the anti-nutrients in soy basically block the enzymes in our system that are needed for digestion of the soy product. So we're not digesting or absorbing this food, so it goes through the system basically undigested. And so that's a lot of stress and a lot of bloating, right? And then the phytates in the soy itself, they actually block the absorption of minerals that we need, so essential minerals in our body. And they also deplete us of these minerals. So they're depleting essential minerals that we need even to complete the digestive process. So it's kind of an evil cycle. So I see a lot of people, if they're having some pretty significant abdominal pain or abdominal bloating, and if I see that they're eating processed soy, if we eliminate that, usually their bloating and abdominal pain goes away almost instantly. So it's pretty interesting to see that. So instead of these soy products, these processed ones that we see, right, the veggie burgers, the soy, hot dogs, the soy cheeses, the soy milks, all of those things, we want to look for instead the fermented soy products. So fermented basically means that the soy itself has started to be like pre-digested, right? So it's broken down for us. And it's also fermenting, it's creating a good source of bacteria. So it's easy to digest, and the anti-nutrients are deactivated. So it's not going to bind to minerals. It's not going to remove minerals from your system. It's going to make it instead more digestible and absorbable, and you're helping to replenish the good bacteria in your system. So fermented soy products include things like tempeh, and that's T-E-M-P-E-H, and miso. So those are two things, two of the most common fermented soy products that we have access to. And miso, like miso soup, is what you would find basically in restaurants and stores. And miso is a paste that you can make into a soup. So it's like a soybean paste that's been fermented. And so that is also a good source of good bacteria as long as you don't heat it up too high and kill the good bacteria. So you want to keep the temperature of your miso warm. And so that would replace products like tofu and soy milk and soy cheeses and other soy products, essentially. Okay. So if you have any questions, just push 5-star on your phone, and I can unmute you. Otherwise, we're going to go right into the second one. So with each of these topics, there's so much that we could cover, but I want to give you just kind of a general overview of each one so we have time to get through them all, and then if you have more questions at the end, we can talk more in depth about them. So the first one are the soy products, right? For some of us, that's a big eye-opener. For some of us, we've kind of known that. But there's always something that we can learn a bit more, right, and take with us each time we listen to it. We always get something different out of it. So the second belly-bloating, supposedly healthy food that we're eating is kind of one whole group of foods, and this is whole grains. And this shocks so many people because I do a lot of corporate health consulting, and I go into these workplaces, and people come and sit down, at my desk next to me, and I ask them, how their nutrition is, how they feel about it, and everyone is like, oh, I know what I should be doing. I know everything there is about nutrition. I know how to eat healthy, blah, blah, blah. And that's the first sign, the first red flag for me that they probably don't know exactly what they should be doing, because if people think they know it all, it's a good sign that they don't, because there's so much to know with nutrition, and the information out there is usually wrong. So if they're just memorizing the information that's been given to them through the food guide pyramid and the media, then it's usually wrong, right? And so the body is so complex and nutrition is so complex, there's always something more that we can learn, which is good. So it's a good thing to admit that you don't know it all, right? And you never will. But it's exciting to go on this journey with your body and figure out what it is that you need and work specifically for you. So these people come into my office or desk, and the first thing out of their mouth is more whole grains. They know they should be eating more whole grains, right? And unfortunately, that's not usually the case for most of us. And these whole grains can actually be causing a lot of inflammation in the body, digestive discomfort and stress, and a lot of bloating. So the food guide pyramid actually recommends that we eat 6 to 11 servings of grains, whole grains per day. Yikes. I don't know about you, but I'd have a big hard time, a big problem trying to get in 6 to 11 servings a day, right? So even getting 2 servings of grains in with each meal, that's only 6 servings, and that I can't even imagine doing. And I'm sure most of you couldn't imagine doing that as well, right, because that's a lot. The main reason that whole grains are a problem, and tonight we're going to focus specifically on a section of whole grains, which is gluten-containing grains, okay? So gluten, which is a kind of a buzzword right now, and unfortunately it's not a trend. It's just going to fade away. It's actually, and we'll talk about why, it's becoming kind of a big problem. It's something that more people are becoming aware of for good reason. So gluten is a protein that's found in wheat and oats, barley, rye, spelt. Those are the main things, and then you can also find it in different products like artificial crab. Soy sauce has wheat in it and things like that. So gluten, the protein itself, is responsible for giving bread and things like that its chewy texture, right? And so as Americans, we like the Wonder Bread and things like that. So throughout the years, our wheat has been modified to have even more gluten than it ever has before, which is a problem. So at least 60%. This is kind of the numbers, and these change all the time, but at least 60% of people have some sort of sensitivity to gluten, and most people that have it don't even know, because most of our symptoms don't seem like they're directly related to gluten or what we're eating. So brain fog is a big one. Muscle pain, belly bloating is huge. Arthritis, autoimmune conditions can all be related to the intake of gluten, basically. And the reason that we're seeing such an increase in gluten sensitivity is because, again, like soy, it's a genetically modified product now, because we want it to have more gluten than ever so that we can make fluffy, chewier products, right, and make more money off of that. So there are studies that say there are between 60 to 600% more gluten in wheat than ever before. So basically, it's a product that our body no longer recognizes. It's not the same wheat that was there years and years and years ago. It's different. And so our body doesn't know what to do with that, and it's looked at as a foreign invader or something that's toxic to our system, right? And they're also very heavily sprayed, again, with chemicals, so pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, things like that, that, again, get transmitted to our bodies, which is not good. It creates inflammation and toxicity again. And then, so eating these whole grains or gluten-containing products, so they create this inflammation in our body because we're not able to fully digest it. And then the partially digested food moves through our system and into our large intestine and then creates a lot of bloating and discomfort there. And it also creates a lot of inflammation and can create leaky gut, which is essentially holes or gaps in our intestinal lining that let partially digested food sneak into our bloodstream, and then our immune system attacks it, and then we have food sensitivities, and then we're more likely to become sensitive to a lot more different foods, the supposedly even healthy foods. So for me, years ago, I was sensitive to zucchini and lemon and blueberries and things that should have been healthy foods, right? However, my body was so inflamed, and I had that leaky gut, and my immune system was so overstimulated and just kind of crazy that it attacked whatever went through it. So all of these things, my digestive system wasn't working properly. So these undigested food particles would seep into the bloodstream, and the immune system would attack it, and then the body, next time you would eat it, would mark it as a foreign invader and attack it and create all that inflammation in the body. And when we have inflammation, we have weight gain, right? So we hold weight in fat where there's inflammation, and where there's fat, there's inflammation. So it's that cycle. Like one creates the other, and it's kind of a vicious cycle, right? So we really need to get rid of the inflammation big time. And let's see, it also affects, we've gotten into already, so I won't go too much more detail in this, but digestion. So again, it's not properly digested or absorbed, right? So it's just kind of hanging out in the digestive system, and that can create a lot of issues with the digestive process and bowel movements and things like that. And then also, grains in general can create really issues with our blood sugar. And most of us have poor blood sugar control, and this can be responsible for holding on to fat and especially weight gain around the midsection. So when you take in grains that have a higher carbohydrate content and little fat or protein in them, when you take that into your system, most of us, it creates a kind of a quick rush of sugar into the bloodstream. And that spike in blood sugar will create the release of insulin, which is kind of a fat-storing hormone. So your insulin will come in to lower the blood sugar levels, and it takes the sugar into the cell. And because most of us don't immediately use that stored energy, it gets stored as fat, right? And then what also can happen is sometimes when that insulin rush comes in, a lot of times we overshoot it, especially if we have a lot of sugar intake, and then it drops our blood sugar too low, right? So we get that low blood sugar, kind of jittery, weak feeling. That's like a low blood sugar response, and we feel like we need to have sugar or something to eat, right, to get rid of it. So what happens is the body, that's a stress response. When the blood sugar gets too low, that's a stressor to the body. And our body responds by stimulating the adrenal glands, which are our stress response, basically glands, that produce cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And we all know cortisol is the belly fat hormone, essentially. So cortisol is produced because it helps to increase blood sugar, right? So it's supposed to be used in emergency kind of fight or flight response, right? However, it's being used just because our bodies are so stressed, right? And we don't know how to use our food properly. So when we have grains coming in, we have this crazy out of whack blood sugar response, we're basically sending stress signals and responses to the body, and then we're producing stress hormones. And that creates weight gain around the middle, our midsection, right? And the more weight we carry around our middle, not only the more uncomfortable it is, the more fat you're storing around your internal organs, the more toxic that is, because fat stores toxins, right? And where there's toxicity, fat will go to store the toxins to kind of keep it away from the internal organs. So that toxicity is really close to your internal organs, which can be very scary and create a lot of different diseases and things like that. And then also, whole grains, they contain phytic acid. And phytic acid basically binds to minerals in the body and removes them. So it's also, not only is it creating inflammation, poor blood sugar control, fat storage, it's also removing minerals from our system. So even though whole grains are supposed to be rich sources of nutrients, we're actually removing a lot of nutrients when we eat it, and our body's under stress, which depletes us even more of more minerals. So we're actually depleting our body of minerals, and guess what? When your body doesn't have the minerals and the nutrients it needs, then you're going to get cravings because it needs something coming in, and that's when you get all these mixed signals and you feel like you're hungry all the time, even though maybe you're bloated, and you feel kind of full, but you still feel like this deep hunger, and then you'll get cravings, right? So it's all kind of linked together. So whole grains is a whole, we could talk for days on this topic, but instead of eating gluten-containing grains, so like I said, that's in wheat, oats, barley, rye, spelt, and things like soy sauce, you always want to read labels because they sneak gluten in lots of places that you wouldn't expect. There's fillers and sausages and thickeners and soups and sauces and things like that. So always read the ingredients and things to try. So if you want to just swap it out, instead of eating those gluten-containing grains, try quinoa, and that's Quinoa, so quinoa, and rice-based products. So those are a little bit easier on the digestive system, and it's a good transition because especially if you're still used to eating those grains, you still get that same type of satisfaction, right, with the foods you're eating. So that's kind of a good starting point. And then even starchy vegetables are good because they give you that kind of same carbohydrate and good sort of satiating feeling that you would get from grains without the kind of damaging effects on the digestive system and inflammation and the effects of the phytic acids and things like that. All right, so I hope that makes sense and that wasn't too much information at once. So if you have questions, again, you can push 5* on your phone to raise your hand. And so we've gone through the first two. So the first one, again, is soy products, especially soy, like processed soy. So it's soy, like meat alternatives, veggie alternatives, and things like tofu and stuff like that. And then the second one is whole grains, especially gluten-containing grains. So the wheat, oats, barley, rye, and spelt. And then, let's see, the third one is probably most of you could guess this one's coming. But if not, is dairy products. So especially the low-fat, reduced-fat, fat-free dairy. We all think we should be eating more dairy for calcium and maybe even for weight loss and eating the low-fat to avoid the calories and to avoid the fat, right? There's lots of things that are wrong with this picture. And the first one is a lot of us know lactose kind of intolerance is a big thing. You know, we've heard of that, and we know people who experience that, and a lot of us ourselves experience that. Because a lot of us lack the enzyme lactase, which helps us to digest that milk protein, essentially. And about 75% of the world's population is unable to properly digest dairy, which is crazy if you think about it. And what I also see is that dairy sensitivity and gluten sensitivity kind of go hand in hand. And usually the reason this is because with gluten sensitivity, there's a lot of inflammation in the gut, and there's a lot of destruction to the intestinal villi, which are these little finger-like projections that extend from the intestinal wall. They have enzymes on them and help to break down and digest our foods. So when that is inflamed and basically blunted, we don't have, again, the enzymes that we need or the ability to digest the milk protein like we should as well. So usually dairy and gluten issues kind of go hand in hand. And a lot of people say, this is always, the first thing out of people's mouths that I hear when I talk about dairy is, well, how am I going to get my calcium? How am I going to get my calcium? I need to have the dairy. Well, they've actually done studies that show that there are countries that have the lowest, so the countries that have the lowest rates or intake of dairy also have the lowest rates of osteoporosis. That's weird, right? How does that work if dairy is supposed to help prevent osteoporosis, right, and things like that? Well, actually, we get and absorb more calcium through leafy green veggies and things like that. We actually don't really get much benefit out of the calcium that's in the dairy product itself, right? So we have to look at all factors considered and look at the dairy product as a whole and see what it's doing to the system as a whole. And if our body is acidic, which a lot of times dairy can be very acidifying to most of us, and again, people's bodies are different. So one product or one food that may be acidifying to one person can be alkalinizing to another. So it can actually be the opposite of acidic, if that makes sense for you. So people react differently. But if our body is acidic, then we pull calcium from our bones to neutralize it. So if your body is responding to dairy and it's making your system a bit more acidic, then you're actually doing more harm than good, and you're not getting any benefit from the calcium in the dairy product itself. But you're also depleting your bones of that calcium because we need that to buffer the blood and to neutralize it and bring it back to kind of a neutral level, if that makes sense for you. All right. So in addition to that, dairy itself, so the cows, unfortunately, are pumped full of hormones and antibiotics. And when they do that to the cows, that's transmitted into their milk, and then that is transmitted into us. And that's really scary. So antibiotics, they actually kill off all the good bacteria in our gut, and that is essential to help us banishing the bloat and just protecting us from any disease in general, and to help us keep the weight off. When we have too much bad bacteria in the gut, we often hold on to way too much weight. And when we get this balance, the weight usually falls off naturally. So the hormones, the antibiotics that they pump through this are transmitted into the dairy products themselves, which then are put into your system. And then they also homogenize the milk, so they basically blend it all together at high speed so that the liquid and the fat are blended into one. And that can alter the hormones, or not the hormones, I'm sorry, the proteins, and make it a bit harder to digest and absorb. And that's a stressor to the system. And then they pasteurize the milk. And pasteurization means that they heat it up to a high heat, so they kill off any bacteria. So they kill off not only the bad bacteria, but they kill off the good bacteria. And that's why our immune systems are really out of whack these days, and why we have a lot of digestive issues, autoimmune conditions, and things like that. So that's an important thing to realize as well. So basically, and in addition, when they remove the fat, so we want low-fat products, right? That's what we're always told. But when you take the fat away from the product, especially like dairy, when it's naturally a high-fat product, your body's not meant to digest and absorb that protein without that fat that goes with it. So when we have a lot more protein and not the fat that goes with it, it's a big stressor to the system. Not to mention that the vitamins like A and D really, to help the body take it in and use it, we need that fat from the product itself to help our body fully utilize the nutrients in it. So again, lots of things to consider. So what we really want to go for, so instead of doing the low-fat, fat-free, reduced-fat milk, yogurt, cheeses, whatever your dairy kind of weakness is, ice cream, a better choice, kind of a step up, would be to definitely go the organic route and make sure it's hormone-free, antibiotic-free, so that you're not getting those toxins basically pumped into your system. Another is to make sure that it's full fat. And everyone, I love the looks on people's faces that I get when I say this. They look at me like I'm crazy, but then they're also really excited that they get to eat full fat. And also what's interesting is when you eat full fat, it makes you a lot fuller and more satisfied, and you're going to eat a lot less throughout the day and a lot less of the product. And even better than all of this is if you can find raw. And there's a lot of laws regulating this because raw is not heated, right? So all the bacteria is still there, which means you're flushing your system with all of that good, beneficial bacteria. So that's a good step up. For people who can tolerate dairy, right, that's the best thing that you can do is to switch to those. Another option is to switch to the fermented basically fermented type like yogurt, which is kefir. So it's a little bit thicker or thinner than yogurt, and it's a little bit more sour, but it gives you a good dose of good bacteria, which helps digestive system immensely. And then, better yet than that, so if we do have a sensitivity to dairy and there's some inflammation going on there, if you can switch to coconut milk replacements or almond milk or even rice milk and look for the unsweetened versions of that, that can be huge, especially if people have congestion and mucus and sinus issues and allergies. Switching to non-dairy alternatives can be huge. Okay, so these are just 3 of the top kind of 10 belly bloating foods. So I gave you a lot of information today, and there's tons more that we could go into. But right now, I want to know if there's any questions that you guys have around these 3 foods that we discussed. And if there is, you can just push 5-star to raise your hand. But again, the top 3 are basically soy, so processed soy products. The second is whole grains, especially the gluten-containing grains. And the third one is dairy products, especially the low-fat, fat-free, or reduced-fat versions and non-organic versions of the dairy products. So those are just 3 of the top 10 belly bloating foods that we go into detail with in the program. And then also with the 21-day Banish the Bloat program, we go into the bloat-banishing rock stars and the tummy-toning foods and a lot more. And you give a 100-page ebook where we discuss all of that, plus 21 days of menus and meal plans and recipes that are all geared around foods that help us to debloat naturally and to heal our digestive system and to cleanse the body so that it can do what it needs to do. And that's when weight can fall off kind of instantly. So I always tell people that I like to basically ignite their inner spark and their outer glow. And so we always start with the inside, right? If the inside is sparkling and clean, then so will your outside be, right? So the first thing that I usually hear from clients is within a week of doing the program, yes, they lose weight, and quite a substantial amount. Up to 10 pounds in a week has been there. And not because people are restricting calories or anything like that, but because we're getting rid of inflammation, and that's huge. But the biggest comment that I get is that people get comments from other people asking what they're doing because they are glowing. And that glow comes from the inside. And other people are attracted to that and can see that, and they want to know what you're doing. Your eyes are brighter and your skin glows, and it all starts from the inside out. And that's why this whole process is so powerful. When you focus on that, then the weight comes off naturally. So the focus is no longer about fighting with willpower and depriving yourself and trying to eat a certain number of calories a day or only the healthy foods. It's about really giving your body what it needs to thrive, because our body knows what it's very smart, and it knows what to do if we give it the right tools. So the problem is we're so toxic that our body is confused. So we just need to clean it out, and then you'll start getting the right signals from your body, and you'll be gravitating towards the foods that are best for you and best for your body. And then the weight comes off naturally, so you don't even have to focus on it, which is the really exciting part about this whole process. So starting tonight, I want you to start to kind of question, everything that you think is healthy and think that you should be eating or doing. And instead, begin to ask yourself if this resonates with you and if you connect with it. Is this what your body wants? And how does it feel, right? And start to think about that instead. Instead of thinking what you should do because it's supposedly healthy, start to think about what you want, what your body wants, and how different things make you feel, right? We're so individual and unique. We need to start to listen to and to identify your own unique language of your body, right? And that's kind of what the Banish the Bloat process takes you on. It takes you on that journey So you can now listen to your body's signals, because before, right now our signals, I know years ago my body was telling me I wanted donuts, I wanted brownies, I wanted Dairy Queen blizzards, and, froyo every day, all of this stuff. That's what my body was telling me. And that's because my body was toxic and my gut was an absolute mess. Now my body tells me when I need maybe a little bit more sea salt or maybe a little bit more protein or fat in a meal, but I never have those cravings like I did. And I had cravings, constant cravings for a good 10 years or more, and I didn't think that they would ever go away. I didn't even think that that was a possibility. So to be having lived for the last couple years with no cravings at all is crazy to me. Even during PMS, I don't get those cravings like I used to. So, or the bloating. And that's another thing that people notice is that their PMS, that whole process gets so much easier. They don't have the bloating, the mood swings, the food cravings, anything like that. That whole process changes too. So I could keep going on this, but I think we're getting close to time. So I just want to, again, reiterate what we talked about tonight. So these 3 belly bloating foods, we have the soy, the whole grains, and the dairy. And what this basically means for you is that dieting, it doesn't have to be hard, right? It doesn't have to be like we've been taught. It doesn't have to be forced and restrictive and frustrating and hard, right? It can actually be quite a rewarding process and very enjoyable and even delicious when you eat the right foods. I think a lot of us, starting out on the bloat banishing journey and process, are shocked with the foods we get to eat, and it's a joy to eat the foods that we thought maybe we couldn't have, right, because they're not healthy or they're going to make us fat, when a lot of these things are kind of backwards in our minds. So as a thank you for sticking with me tonight and through this whole process. Of course, we're transitioning right now into a new season. And this fall season, this is a perfect time, I see, with a lot of my clients to start something new. Because as we approach the seasons and the holidays, right, so we're right on the verge of Halloween, and then comes Thanksgiving, and then Christmas, and then New Year's, and even Valentine's Day, and that's usually what trips people up. So this is the perfect time, which is why I always start a detox or program, Banish the Bloat program, in October. So October 7th, I'm starting a new Banish the Bloat. It's a brand new program. So it's Banish the Bloat, only it's fall. So it's all new menu, seasonal recipes, and then also tips to help detox the body with the season and make sure you're doing it properly. Because what your body needs actually changes with each season. So to help your body basically lose the weight and keep it off, and to keep the fat off, especially around the midsection, it's really important to get into that seasonal flow, which is why I've now made this seasonal program for Banish the Bloat based on feedback the past years. People wanted more recipes, and they wanted to continue on this process. So this is the first seasonal program that I've rolled out. So it's kind of a second Banish the Bloat, and it's fall, and it starts the 7th because it takes you right up until Halloween. So you're setting yourself up for success as you approach Halloween, then Thanksgiving, then Christmas, and New Year's, and so on. So you're setting the stage to approach the holiday seasons with success. And you're given recipes that you can use for holiday meals that will give you that same sort of satisfaction, so you don't feel like you need to indulge into all the other foods that maybe the people around you are indulging in. So that program, it's 3 weeks, and it starts October 7th. And as a thank you to all of you, I always like to give a discount for people that spend time with me on calls like this, because it shows that you value yourself. So I want to reward you for that, essentially. So if you sign up for the fall program by tomorrow, which is Thursday night, the 27th, the program is usually $397 for the seasonal one. And if you sign up by tomorrow night, it's $247, or if you do all 4 throughout the year, so each season, fall, winter, spring, summer, they're $197 per season, which is an awesome deal. It's never going to get cheaper than that, so it's a pretty good deal. And it also makes sure that you keep on track throughout the year. And that's a lot of the feedback that I got from people is they wanted to keep doing the program. They didn't really want to go off it because they liked how they felt. So they just wanted new ideas and new food and new recipes. And so this gives you that, and it gives you extra tips on how to detox with the seasons and move forward in that way. So that's really exciting. And there's lots of new stuff coming as part of the Banish the Bloat program too, like exercises and things like that, more surprises that I'm not going to reveal quite yet. But if you're inspired and you're really ready to do something more fun, right, and to get to know your body a little bit better and to permanently get rid of that bloat, then now's the time, because your offer is good and through tomorrow. If you have any questions, send me an email and I'll respond to you to make sure it's a good fit for you. So I'm always willing to ask questions to make sure it is that right fit for you. So I'm going to leave you with that, and again, say a big thank you to each of you for spending your evening with me. I can't believe we crammed everything into an hour. But again, thank you. This is a big, something that you did for yourself. So make sure that you acknowledge yourself for that. Maybe take a nice bath tonight or do something to treat yourself or indulge yourself a little bit. So if there aren't any questions, I think we will leave it at that. If you do have a question, you can push 5 star on your phone to raise your hand. Otherwise, I think we will sign off, and I'll let you all get back to your evening. All right. Let's see. So I'm going to unmute everyone. We'll say goodbye, and that'll be it. All right, ladies. Thanks for sticking with me. Have a good evening, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.